CT Fletcher's story does not begin in a gym, on a stage, or behind a motivational quote printed on a black hoodie. It begins in an environment where survival mattered more than inspiration, where discipline wasn't optional, and where weakness carried consequences. Born and raised in Compton, California, Fletcher grew up in a neighborhood shaped by violence, instability, and limited opportunity. From an early age, strength wasn't about aesthetics or ego. It was about protection, respect, and presence. In a world that constantly tested you, physical power became a language. That environment forged the mindset that would later define CT Fletcher: relentless, uncompromising, and unafraid of pain. Before bodybuilding, before social media, before ISYMFS became a cultural slogan, Fletcher served in the United States military. The military refined what the streets had already taught him: structure, obedience to routine, and the ability to function under pressure. It also introduced him to weightlifting, not as a hobby, but as a system. Lifting wasn't about feeling good. It was about adaptation. You break the body down so it can rebuild stronger. That philosophy would later bleed into how Fletcher viewed business, branding, and life itself. Stress wasn't something to avoid. Stress was the mechanism of growth. After his service, Fletcher entered the competitive powerlifting world, where he built a reputation for brutal intensity and record-breaking lifts. He wasn't polished. He wasn't marketable in the traditional sense. But he was authentic in a way that couldn't be ignored. While others focused on image, Fletcher focused on output. He trained harder, louder, and longer than almost anyone around him. His workouts were violent in their energy. Screams, slammed weights, and an unapologetic embrace of suffering. This wasn't accidental branding. This was who he was. But powerlifting success didn't immediately translate into wealth. Fletcher lived the reality many athletes face: recognition without financial security. He opened a small gym, Iron Addicts, alongside partners who shared his vision. The gym wasn't luxurious. It wasn't clean in the traditional sense. It was raw, intimidating, and real. The kind of place that filtered people the moment they walked in. Either you belonged or you didn't. That exclusivity became its power. Then came the phrase that would change everything: iron sharpens iron, motherfucker. ISYMFS wasn't crafted by a marketing team. It wasn't tested in focus groups. It came from Fletcher's worldview. Conflict creates growth, pressure forges strength, and comfort weakens men. The phrase captured something primal that many people felt but couldn't articulate. It rejected motivational fluff and embraced confrontation. And when Fletcher began posting videos online, raw training sessions, aggressive monologues, and unapologetic calls for accountability, the phrase spread like wildfire. Social media didn't make CT Fletcher famous. Social media amplified what already existed. His videos resonated with people who were tired of excuses, tired of softness, tired of being told growth should be gentle. Fletcher wasn't telling people they were special. He was telling them they were capable, but only if they suffered for it. That message cut through the noise. Millions watched, millions shared, and slowly, without a master plan, CT Fletcher became a brand. Merchandise followed demand. Shirts, hoodies, and gym apparel stamped with ISYMFS sold out repeatedly. The aesthetic was simple, aggressive, and unmistakable. No bright colors, no friendly fonts. Just a message that dared you to live up to it. What started as gym slang turned into a multi-million-dollar apparel business. Fletcher didn't pitch investors. He didn't chase endorsements. He built something people believed in, and belief is the most powerful currency there is. At its peak, the CT Fletcher brand was generating millions annually. Gym expansions, international recognition, appearances, sponsorships. He had built a $5 million empire from intensity alone. But behind the scenes, something was breaking. For years, Fletcher had pushed his body beyond limits. Heavy lifting, extreme blood pressure spikes, and a history of poor health choices had taken their toll. He had already undergone multiple open heart surgeries. Doctors warned him repeatedly, slow down, reduce intensity, change your lifestyle. But Fletcher didn't know how to operate at half speed. His entire identity was built on pushing past pain. And that mindset, while powerful, can also be deadly. In 2017, reality hit hard. CT Fletcher's heart was failing, not metaphorically, literally.
This once great, powerful man, 180 pounds, swiveled up, looked like a fucking skeleton.
His heart function dropped to life-threatening levels. Walking across a room left him breathless. Training became impossible. Doctors told him bluntly, without a heart transplant, he would die. Not eventually. Soon. The man who built an empire on physical dominance was now dependent on machines, medication, and the generosity of a stranger he would never meet. For someone whose identity revolved around self-reliance, this was a psychological earthquake. Waiting for a heart transplant isn't like waiting for surgery. It's waiting for death to happen somewhere else. Every ring of the phone could mean hope or the end. Fletcher lived in limbo, confronting a truth many never face. Strength doesn't make you immortal. Discipline doesn't make you immune. And motivation can't overpower biology forever. When the transplant finally came, it wasn't victory. It was surrender.
2005, I had open heart surgery, emergency open heart surgery. During that surgery, flatline, 3 times.
His original heart was removed. Another human being's heart took its place. Survival came at the cost of identity. He could no longer train the way he once did. He could no longer scream through reps or chase personal records. The thing that built his empire was gone. And that's where most stories would end. But Fletcher didn't. Post-transplant, CT Fletcher faced a new battle: redefinition. Who are you when the thing that defined you is taken away? When your power, your aggression, your physical dominance are no longer available tools? Many athletes spiral here. Depression, irrelevance, bitterness. Fletcher chose evolution instead. He shifted his message. ISYMFS was never really about lifting heavy weights. It was about resilience, pressure, growth through adversity. And now, for the first time, Fletcher was living that message in a way no squat rack could replicate. Recovery became his new training. Patience became his new discipline. Survival became his new competition. He returned to social media, not weaker, but different. His voice softened, but the message deepened. He spoke about mortality, gratitude, and responsibility. About knowing when to push and when to listen. About strength that isn't visible in mirrors. The same people who followed him for rage began listening for wisdom. Financially, the empire adjusted. The brand endured because it was never tied solely to performance. It was tied to philosophy. ISYMFS still meant pressure creates strength. But now pressure wasn't always physical. Sometimes it was emotional. Sometimes it was medical. Sometimes it was accepting limits without surrendering purpose. CT Fletcher didn't just survive a heart transplant. He outgrew his former self. Today, his legacy isn't measured by lift totals or gym intimidation. It's measured by impact, by the people who found discipline through his words, by those who learned that intensity doesn't have to disappear when circumstances change. It just transforms. His story is a warning and an inspiration. A warning that relentless drive without balance has consequences. And an inspiration that even when everything is taken from you, health, strength, certainty, you can still rebuild something meaningful. CT Fletcher built a $5 million empire by refusing to quit. And when his heart failed, he proved that strength isn't just about how hard you push, but how deeply you adapt. Iron sharpens iron, but survival sharpens wisdom. What makes CT Fletcher's journey after the transplant especially compelling is that it forced him to confront something he had spent his entire life outrunning: stillness. For a man who believed motion was survival, slowing down felt like suffocation. Rehabilitation wasn't heroic. It wasn't cinematic. It was quiet, repetitive, and humbling. Simple movements replaced maximal lifts. Walking replaced deadlifting. Breathing correctly became more important than intensity. This phase stripped away the performative aspects of strength and left only discipline in its purest form. The ability to show up when no one is watching and no applause is waiting. There were moments, Fletcher openly admitted, were darker than any physical training he had endured. The fear of rejection by his own audience lingered. Would people still listen if he couldn't scream through workouts? Would the brand survive if the body that built it no longer matched the image? These were questions no business plan could answer. And yet, as time passed, something unexpected happened. His audience didn't leave. In many ways, it grew deeper. People weren't just inspired by what he lifted anymore. They were moved by what he endured. The ISYMFS message evolved in real time. Where it once challenged people to confront weakness through aggression, it now challenged them to confront reality with honesty. Fletcher began talking about accountability in health, about listening to medical advice, about understanding that discipline also means restraint. This wasn't a retreat from intensity. It was a maturation of it. He proved that growth isn't linear. Sometimes growth means learning when to stop pushing before the damage becomes irreversible. In the end, CT Fletcher's legacy isn't confined to gyms or merchandise or viral videos. It exists in the uncomfortable space between ambition and mortality. It exists in the realization that success means nothing if it costs you your future. And it exists in the rare courage to evolve publicly, knowing some will misunderstand, but trusting that truth is more important than applause. He didn't just survive a heart transplant. He survived the loss of the man he used to be. And in doing so, he demonstrated a deeper, quieter form of strength. One that doesn't scream, doesn't flex, and doesn't need to prove itself. Because the strongest thing CT Fletcher ever lifted wasn't iron, it was himself.